Yay, we're back here at Paranormal Activity. I'm so excited. Of course, I'm going to watch it. I love horror films so much that I will subject myself into watching what I thought was going to be a series, never again to put out another movie. But yet, here we are again, back into the PA universe. That's I just, for some reason, I shortened it, Paranormal Activity Universe, right? And so, before going into this movie, as I watched the trailer, I was super excited about it until I found out it was a Paranormal Activity movie. So that was wildly disappointing. But the thing is that we are actually taking a departure from the normal model of the Paranormal Activity, and we're going into a little bit more of the Marked Ones territory, where we're going to be following characters in a vlog type documentary type of setting, which I know for a lot of people, they're like, oh, I didn't like the Mark ones. Okay, I get it. I liked it because it was a little bit different from what we were normally getting with static shots of like just a home and watching a family get haunted, right? So this one, it's a little bit more exciting because there's a little bit more action. You kind of feel like you're in the movie versus feeling voyeuristic with the static shots that 1, 2, 3, and 5. I know there is a 6th one because they said this was the 7th one, but I'm not sure. All right, and so before we get into this whole story, I'm just gonna tell you right now that the only clips I'm gonna be showing are the clips that were from the trailer. If I need to insert them in, but we're really gonna not try to show anything from the movie so far, just because it just got released, and for some reason it was released after Christmas or after Halloween, not before Halloween. And so the story goes is that we're following Margot, who is trying to find out where she's from, right?
We are shooting a documentary because I am about to meet my first biological relative.
She was abandoned as a child in a hospital, and so she actually does a 23andMe. Shout out to 23andMe. Hopefully you guys sponsor me. You know, it's funny. 23andMe is doing a lot of work, right? Because not only are these in this movie, but I'm sure, like, I think a year or two ago, a very prolific serial killer was caught because their daughter had used 23andMe and it matched one of the old DNA samples in the database, and that is really wild to me, right? But we follow Margot in here as she wants to document her journey of about meeting her real family. Obviously, I don't know the plight of adopted children or orphan children, but I'm pretty sure is that they just want to find where they come from. They want to know what their backstory is, to have a connection that's like familial, that's like bloodline, I guess. I'm not 100% sure, but
What did he say?
for some people, it eats away with them. So that's the type of character that Margot is. It eats away at her. She wants to know why, because we do notice that she actually has footage of her mother dropping her at the hospital, and she has said that she had watched that footage 100 times trying to analyze it, and it eats away at her like Batman, you know, trying to figure out a mystery. And so when she actually gets contacted by somebody who matched with her on the 23andMe, they schedule a meetup, and they schedule for them to go visit the family that her mother was from. And so, of course, you know, everything's gonna seem normal. Margot feels like she likes it a little bit just because everyone's so disconnected from the real world. Everyone feels more present. But of course, I thought we were gonna leave this behind, but we're having like night 1, night 2, night 3. Not really in that same format, but we're just being told what the date is, right? And then so the whole movie takes place throughout an entire week. And so, of course, things start to escalate. At first, Margot wakes up and she's like, "There's red lights outside. What's going on?" And then further later on down the movie, they start to investigate. They see that this community they're like meeting in the barn, and then a child or a goat gives birth to a two-headed goat, and we hear whispers of like, we must do it now. So we're getting like, we built up some tension, we built up some mystery, but it's Paranormal Activity. We know where this is all gonna end up, right? And so later on the days, we wake up again. Margot wakes up again, and she's trying to wake up her friend Dale and her friend Chris. Like, wake up, you guys got to see this. And then she gets dragged away, almost like Rex style in the night. But then she gets dragged upwards, and then we wake up in the next morning. Margot is zoned out. There's blood everywhere. There's blood on the ceilings, which no one ever addresses, which is wild to me. But the doctor's like, oh, she just had a very heavy menstrual cycle. And I was like, how does that work? Because there's blood on the ceiling, doc. And so Chris obviously asked a very valid question, like, are you even a real doctor, man? But what's it called? Before that, Chris and Margot do end up breaking into the chapel. There's no pews, but then there's all these markings, very Midsommar like, where it's kind of telling a story, and we actually find out that the demon that they're dealing with is Asmodeus.
Back here.
What is that?
The demon Asmodeus was trapped inside a chosen woman of God.
Which is, I thought it was going to be a different demon. I was like, oh man, this Paranormal Activity is having like this whole demon universe going on. Because I never really found out who Toby was. I never looked it up. Because first, I'm not really interested. But I was like, okay, I wanted to see which prince of hell is Toby. And I just found out is Asmodeus, which now really complicates the timeline for me. I don't know what's going on, because in this movie, these people have been taking care of this issue for 200 years, right? From the paintings that we see, that there's a ritual that's happening where a woman has to be sacrificed to contain Asmodeus. But then again, at the same time, we have this woman cult in the original Paranormal Activity series that are trying to cultivate male children for Toby to be able to take control of. So I don't know where this fits in narrative wise, or I don't know what's going on, right? But the next night, Chris wakes up, finds out, or like Chris and Dale, they go into town to find a car battery, and they start to do research, like, what's this name mean? And so it's a little bit of exposition dump where like Dale's like, oh, it's this demon who is the demon of lust, depravity, and violence and all that stuff. And the whole ritual is just on Google. You know, everything's on Google nowadays, right? And we actually find out that what's it called? They have to sacrifice a woman to be able to contain the demon, because a woman's body can do it. I think like the correlation in there is that because women give birth, that they're able to handle that. But then it takes over the entire demon. So we kind of put two and two together that this is actually what happened to Margot's mom, Sarah. She is the container for this demon, but her body is deteriorating. It's probably been like 20 plus years. Like, fuck, dude. And if you go down that cave, you know that there's no TV, so you don't know what's going on. And so they get back to the house. They're trying to find Margot. Dale goes to put the battery into the van, and Chris goes to get Margot, but everything's gone. All their stuff is gone. Margot is missing, so he goes back to the chapel. He fights the father, or the grandfather of Margot, ends up throwing him down the hole, killing him. And when he goes down, he stops the ritual from happening. And then they soon start to get chased by Margot's mom, who is the container of this demon. Until Margot's able to trick her from killing Chris, because she already kills Dale in a very stylistic type of way. It almost kind of felt like Until Dawn, when the Wendigo was killing people and it would go into that slow motion and the blood would go up. I'm gonna try to find a clip of that and clip it in here. Uh, but Margot is able to distract her possessed mother, long enough to throw her through this hole that we see at the beginning of the movie, and ends up killing her. They get back to the car. Obviously, they don't have the keys because Dale has the keys, so they go back, get the keys, and as they're coming back into this compound, everything's on fire. There's people with like no eyes, like bleeding from their eye holes. They are possessed. One dude's on fire, and they end up being able to escape, barely making it. And then we get a very small little clip of what I think is like a little homage to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as Margot looks back and she starts laughing maniacally, just like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Final girl did. And then we go back, we actually see cops go to the farm, and there's a baby crying in the barn, right? But when we get to it, it's actually Sam, who's the guy that got Margot to come, who matched with them on 23andMe. And as he wakes up, I'm like, all right, where's the baby? No, it's just Sam, like crying like a baby, and then turning around, and then freaking Xavier, Professor Xing all these people into killing themselves by taking over their minds, and he drives away, and a very melancholic song plays. We do find out in the movie that this family is doing this to contain the demon, because if they don't, the demon will be able to hop body to body, which we do see in the Paranormal Activity series, as he's able to control all these people, like Katie and all that stuff throughout the movie, and all the Marked One kids. And so that's how this movie ends. And really what I'm just confused about is like, what is the timeline here? Because if they're able to control this person or contain this demon for all this time, then who is the Asmodeus that's a part of that woman's cult? So I don't know what's going on there. But this movie is fun. That's all I care about. It's nothing groundbreaking or anything like that. But it is very slow until we get to like the last 20 minutes. But this movie is only an hour and 37 minutes, hour 34 after you take out the credits. So if you're a fan of the Paranormal Activity series, I think it's definitely worth a watch. Actually, while trying to look up who the demon was, I found out that there's a Paranormal Activity 2 Tokyo Nights that I have never even heard of. So
What did he say?
So now that is extending the mythos out of America into Japan, and I gotta watch that now too, and I want to talk about that later. It came out in 2010, and I just don't understand how I've never heard of this. But I'm definitely gonna check that out, right? Holy crap, I totally forgot. I forgot to try to explain this movie. So the first 10 minutes of it was just me giving you a rundown of what the movie was about. So what's really there to explain? So I like I said, I don't understand if this movie is in the same universe or if it's even the same demon, but according to the Paranormal Activity Wikipedia, Toby is also Asmodeus or Asmodeus, and in this movie it's Asmodeus. But then again, for 200 years in this movie, Next of Kin, this family or this community has been binding this demon to surrogates or to containers of women the entire time. So if that's the case, the events of the original from the women's cults, I don't know what they're called, I should have researched that, but you know, the cult that Katie is a part of, or the witch or the coven, should not have access to this demon because it's already out into the world, but it's just being contained. You know, it's it's weird, right? So I don't know exactly how to explain this, because we actually learn that this family, I mean, yeah, it's messed up, right? It's messed up that they're having to sacrifice a woman, but in the grand scheme of things, I guess it's what's better for humanity. And because Chris and Margot get away at the end of the movie, and Sam is now possessed by Asmodeus, he is now free to cause or wreak havoc onto the world, because it can keep jumping from body to body. It's like that one movie that Denzel Washington was in, where it was just a very bleak movie throughout the whole thing, where a serial killer was getting possessed and it kept jumping body to body, and when Denzel finally thought, I got you, it actually possesses a wolf and gets away as Denzel lies dying there. So I feel like that's the whole situation that's happening. But this is also takes place in 2021, so it's not a prequel to anything. It's actually the most forward in time, or the most present of the Paranormal Activity series. So is this just another demon? I don't know. Maybe the writers got that kind of mixed up. But there's nothing really to explain about this movie. It's pretty straightforward. It's no Ari Aster movie. It's no Hereditary Midsommar movie. There's nothing to really break down. What you see is what you get in this movie. So there's not really nothing for me to break down, because everything is pretty much face value. The only thing I'm really confused about is the timeline, right? But then again, I guess in the original Paranormal Activity series, they messed with time before. So is this originally when the Asmodeus is able to escape and he is able to possess somebody back in time? I don't know. I guess that would create some sort of demon paradox, time loop. I don't know. And unless we're gonna get another Paranormal Activity that's going to explain this, I have no clue where in the timeline this movie sits at all. Alright. Now I can finally end this movie. Or end this episode, right? Alright, guys. This is Movies and Stuff with Barry. I am your co-host of the Who Watches This podcast. Make sure to check out the podcast. We do monthly theme months. I believe recently in November we're doing Danny Trejo month. Danny Trejo is just an awesome actor, and he seems like a really solid guy. I hope I can meet him one day. But yeah, definitely check this movie out. It's on Paramount. It's streaming on there, so you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home. You could get scared in PJs. Alright, guys. Have a good one.